Welcome to a special edition of the Miami Dolphins podcast where we're going to grade every Miami Dolphins first round pick from 2010 to 2020, a decade's worth of first round picks. It's going to be very fun. Obviously, the draft is around the corner, so I wanted to do a fun video, and I thought this would be fun. So let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very excited to do this. A lot of interesting names on this list, and obviously they all have interesting careers and interesting stories to back them up. So let's get into, we're going to go from 2010 to 2020. Okay, and like I said, we're going to grade every single one of these. So let's start with the year 2010. With the 28th pick, the Dolphins held the 28th pick in the first round, so it was kind of low. It was basically a second round pick, and obviously the late 20s picks aren't necessarily always great. It's really the mid 20s that have had some success, but like a few picks from the second round, it just seems that it never really goes anywhere with that player. So with the 28th pick, the Dolphins in the year 2010 selected Audrick. He was listed as a defensive tackle from Penn State. Obviously, he was a little bit more versatile than that. We moved him outside, moved him inside. Mostly for his entire career, played a 4-3 defense. And obviously, never really amounted to anything, really. He was a Dolphin from 2010 to 2014. Then he played 2 years for Jacksonville. Then he was out of the league. The most sacks he ever had in a season was 5.5. That was with Jacksonville. Oh, excuse me. The most sacks he ever had in a season was with us in 2011 when he had 6 sacks his second season as a Dolphin. So, as a player who is more of a toolbox kind of a guy, and obviously at the time there was a little bit more aspirations for him than just being that, he was a solid player for, I would say, 5 years of his career. He was a good starter. He never was anything really better than that. He was a good versatile player. Probably the best thing he did was play the run, I would say. And that 2011 defensive line was actually pretty good. One of the better ones that we had throughout the entire decade, that's for sure. So you have to take in consideration, obviously never made a Pro Bowl, never was a double-digit sack guy, never really made any noise in Miami. You got to take into account, this is the 28th pick in the draft. Did he live up to expectations? Not really. So I would probably give it a C. I think it's a solid C. He never, I don't think, obviously this wasn't a high pick, or this would be a lower grade. Almost a second round pick. I would say it's a solid C. Audrick gave us some solid years. He never really, like I said, lived up to, I think, the expectations surrounding him, I would say. So I would say this was a solid C to start off the decade. So not great, Audrick starting off the decade with him as your first round pick, but again, he was the 28th pick in the draft. It wasn't like, this was a top 10 pick. And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, it gets worse. It definitely gets worse than Audrick. Moving on, one of the best picks of the entire decade, and a fan favorite, a great player, a great Dolphin. Obviously, injuries kind of derailed his career. He would have even played longer. One of the best lineman in the history of the franchise, really. Center Mike Pouncey, obviously from Florida, was picked 15th overall in an insanely talented and stacked draft in the 2011 draft, where there were so many great players in that draft. And obviously he was one of them. Obviously, looking at Mike's career, he lived up to expectations. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler. Probably Jeff Ireland's best pick as a GM. Maybe I'm forgetting someone. I probably am, but a 4-time Pro Bowler. He made the All-Rookie team in 2011, and was just a great, great center. Was a part of the Unicorns in 2016. Was a huge reason why we made the playoffs that year, and was always just a fantastic player. And one of my favorite players on this list, by far. He's definitely making the top 3, that's for sure. So I would say this is definitely, I would say this is an A. Obviously not a Hall of Famer. It's an A or an A-. I'd say it's probably an A- because of the injury. So I'll say A-. A 4-time Pro Bowler. That's got to, I think, amount to something. And he was a great player. And one of the best players on the team, if not the best player on the team for most, second to probably only Cameron Wake. And maybe some of those are Shad Jones years. But Mike Pouncey was one of the best picks of the decade and one of the best players in his time here. And obviously was a Dolphin for 6 years. So almost a decade. And again, a 4-time Pro Bowler. And definitely one of the best players that's going to be on this list. So yeah, I definitely would get. I think I would give this an A- for sure. So let's move on, ladies and gentlemen. Let's keep going down this list. I love. This is pretty cool, and it's cool to see all of these guys next to each other and really look at this list. So yeah, Mike Pouncey was outstanding. Moving on to 2012. Obviously, this was a pretty good draft with players like Luke Kuechly, Russell Wilson, Andrew Luck, Bobby Wagner. There's a lot of really good players in this draft. And obviously the Dolphins had the 8th pick in 2012, and they decided to go quarterback. They went with Ryan Tannehill out of Texas A&M. We all know how this kind of worked out. So grading this is going to be interesting because obviously his Titans career is better than his Dolphins career. His best season was in 2016. Obviously led us to 10 games, 10 wins that season. Never really had a great organization. And you'll see that by some of these draft picks. The head coaches were incompetent. The owner was kind of going a little crazy with some of the free agent spending in the wrong places. Again, terrible management. Terrible roster decisions. Cap management wasn't great. Draft management was even worse. I mean, if you compare it to what Chris Grier is doing is like all-time crazy. But our draft management of picks was not very good in the span that Tannehill was here. And again, the leadership was terrible the entire time he was here. I mean, Philbin lost the locker room. And obviously Gase was an absolute disaster. Definitely towards the end, obviously he gave us our only playoff appearance of the decade, which is kind of crazy that it was Adam Gase who did that, but it's true. Obviously went 10-6 that season and ended up losing to the Steelers. But again, I think Tannehill's career as a Dolphin was, I would say it's more negative than positive if I think about it. I don't think it was, I mean, to hear all the outside noise, I would say it was more negative than positive. So grading his career as a Dolphin is so hard. I would say this is a C+. To pick a quarterback in the top 10, we'll give him the one playoff appearance. Obviously he couldn't finish the season, but he was a huge reason why we were even there. He's really had the most success when he's had a good run game as a quarterback. We've seen that in Tennessee. When he's in a run-first offense, and if you build your team that way, he can be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback. And we saw that in Miami for the 1 year in 2016 with the Unicorns. We're now seeing that in Tennessee with Derrick Henry and obviously with Mike Vrabel up there and how they run their football team. So, again, just never really was able to get... we just never really were able to assemble much around Tannehill, and obviously the leadership was terrible. So I think all in all, this is a C+. I don't think it's mediocre as it's at best was his career in Miami, and really, to be honest with you, most of it was kind of lowlights. There was not a lot of, like, there's some classic games that I can bring up, like the 2013 game-winning drive against the Patriots. He had one against Atlanta the same year. 2016, he had a couple of, like, the Rams game where we were down 14 with, like, 8 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. Brought us back in that game. Like, he's had moments, but I feel like most of it, to be honest with you, was negative. So I would give it a C+. Moving on for 2012, and obviously, to reiterate that, Ryan was the 8th pick. And so far, we've graded, I don't know, I can't even remember the grades I gave. Audrick, and I think I gave Pouncey an A-. So you guys are just going to have to keep up with what I grade these guys. And obviously Tannehill's career as a Dolphin. Let's go through this before we leave Tannehill. Tannehill's career as a Dolphin, He played 7 years in Miami. I think 6 or 7, if I'm correct on that. He threw, let's see here. How many touchdowns did he throw for? I don't know why does this have rushing and receiving? I need his passing. Here we go. Here. So sorry guys, sorry. His career in Miami, his best season was actually was with Bill Lazor when he went 27-12. Should have made the Pro Bowl that year. But he had back-to-back 4,000-yard seasons. Those were probably his best years. I'm rambling now. The point is, Ryan, a C+. Never had 30 touchdowns as a Finn. But for the most part, again, his numbers aren't bad when you look at them. They're not bad at all. And his last year in Miami, he was, I think, 17 and 9. And obviously went on to Tennessee, won comeback player of the year, Pro Bowl, all that. Shouldn't have went back to Tannehill. Anyway, I would say it's a C+. Let's move on to one of the crazier ones on this list, is Dion Jordan, who the Dolphins picked 3rd overall. And they moved up from 12 to 3 with the Raiders. Okay? And again, this is a year after Tannehill. The receiving core, Brandon Marshall left to Chicago. The receiving core there was not a lot of depth there. They needed a playmaking player at the offensive side of the football. Reggie Bush went to Detroit. So the offensive talent level is straight up out the door. And obviously after this year, Richie Incognito would be out the door too. And obviously Billy Turner and Dallas Thomas were the starting tackles this year. It was awful. So you would think the Dolphins might look to do something to help out their young quarterback. They did not. And to put things in perspective, all the Dolphins had to give up to move up from 12 to 3 was a second-round pick. Okay? Which is insane to think about that, because the Dolphins basically did the same thing with the 49ers, and it obviously cost the Niners 3 first-round picks. So think about that. It only cost a second-round pick and a pick swap to get Deon Jordan. Now, obviously, the results weren't great, but to go from 12 to 3, and all you had to give up was a second-round pick is unheard of nowadays, which is insane. So obviously the Dolphins get Dion Jordan, and the rest is history. Dion Jordan he missed. First of all, he played 2 seasons for the Dolphins basically, and people forget this. He played in all 16 games. He never started his rookie year, but he was there for all 16. Only played 10 his second season. And then obviously he violated the substance abuse policy his 3rd year in Miami, and then he was out the door, and then he went to Seattle. But Dion Jordan is an F. This is an F. To not only use the 3rd overall pick on Dion Jordan, which you stole from Oakland, and you could have gotten a great player at that spot, and you wasted it on Dion Jordan, and you stole the 3rd round pick. The 3rd overall pick. I don't think has anyone gotten a top 3 pick for that little? That's insane. So that part of the whole thing is amazing, but obviously the end result was terrible. So to me, this could have been an A+ if they were able to get someone great here. And obviously they ended up getting Dion Jordan. So I would say this is an F. This is a F, one of the worst picks in the franchise's history. Obviously used a 1st and 2nd round pick on him, and he was awful. He was actually terrible. Did make a Pro Bowl, only played 2 seasons, never started 1 game as a Dolphin. He started 1 game as a Finn. In 26 games, he started 1. He played 26 games with Miami, started 1. And this was a top 3 pick, ladies and gentlemen. And then like I said, in a draft where there were holes everywhere on the offensive side of the football, and they didn't address any of them. At least with the first, really didn't address any of them in the 2013 draft. The 2013 draft was not very good at all, and obviously didn't address it with with their 1st round pick at all. So coming off the actual debacle that Dion Jordan was, the Dolphins actually picked 19 in the next season in the 2014 NFL draft. There was a lot of rumors that they might take Derek Carr this year. There was still some doubts about Tannehill, who was coming off a season where he absolutely got shredded in terms of. And again, I don't know if I said this, but I'd give Dion Jordan an F. I think we can all agree on that one. I mean, Dion Jordan, F grade for sure. Okay, so getting back to the 2014 NFL Draft, the Dolphins needed protection badly because Tannehill got absolutely killed. I think he was hit. I don't even remember, but it was an insane amount of times. The offensive line was terrible. We did make a run of the last month of the season, and obviously lost to the Jets. We beat New England. We beat Pittsburgh in Heinz Field, and then obviously we just dropped the ball on that one and almost made the playoffs that year, and then lost to the Jets in the final week of the season and missed it. So we actually didn't have. We went 8-8 in 2013. Despite the terrible pick of Deon Jordan, which could have helped us that year, because we actually had a decent defense and a decent team that was a 500 team that could have made the playoffs. Maybe if we do something different in the first round pick that year. And obviously, protection was a huge concern going into 2014, and this is what the Dolphins ended up doing with it. In 2014, they had the 19th overall pick. They selected Jawan James, obviously tackle out of Tennessee, and Jawan, at the time, people thought was a reach, but actually was a pretty good player. I would say, to be honest with you, he never made a Pro Bowl, but he was a borderline Pro Bowl, above average starter in the National Football League. He made the 2014 All-Rookie team. He had a really good, solid rookie year. He obviously had some injury issues. People thought, again, at the time it was a reach. It really wasn't. It really, really wasn't. It was actually kind of a pretty good pick. And again, if it wasn't for injuries, he was, again, a huge part of the 2016 team in the Unicorns. I think he played all 16 games in 2016. And was a great tackle for us. Then obviously it goes on, he played, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He played 7 seasons as a Dolphin. That doesn't sound right. Yeah, 7 seasons. And obviously went on to play for Denver. And I don't know what the heck's going on with Jawan now. Where is Jawan? I know maybe he got hurt and he probably opted out in 2020. I don't remember. But yeah, this was a really good pick by the Dolphins. It filled a huge need. I think this is the first draft of Dennis Hickey. Jeff Ireland was out the door. And in the second round of this draft, we ended up getting Jarvis Landry. This was actually a pretty good 1-2 punch, and really kind of set the foundation of the 2016 team that won 10 games. So this Jawan James pick, I would probably. This is a tough one. Again, I think you could make an argument that he made the All-Rookie team. You can make an argument that. Definitely this is a top 5 pick of the decade, which is crazy to say. It really is. I would probably give... This isn't an A level. He never made a Pro Bowl. He could have made a Pro Bowl. He did make an All-Rookie team. I would say this is a B. I almost went B-, but I would say this is a B. I would give this a B. He was an above-average starting tackle in the National Football League, and I think that means something. So I'm going to give it a B. And again, played 7 seasons with the team and obviously missed some time, but for the most part was healthy and gave us. It was, I think, definitely worthy of a first round pick of his production. So yeah, I would give it a B. Going into 2015, the Dolphins still haven't really addressed. They did in the second round of 2014, but they haven't really addressed the offense. We still had players like Daniel Thomas and obviously Lamar Miller, who wasn't bad, but was mainly, to be honest with you, he never really was. It's hard to kind of. Lamar Miller did make a Pro Bowl. Let's not talk about Lamar Miller right now. Anyway, Devonte Parker, 2015. The Dolphins needed a playmaker. I really wanted Devonte Parker this season. This was a year before actually the channel that I started doing videos about the Dolphins. It was a year before I started doing them, and I really, really wanted DP in this draft. I was very excited when we got him. Some people wanted us to pick Trey Waynes there. Obviously, I think the Dolphins, between him and Trey Waynes, made the right decision. And again, he was the 14th overall pick. We needed playmaking. We got a good one. It's probably his ceiling, I would say, is a 2. He did lead the league. Or led not the league, but the AFC in receiving one season, obviously. That ended up being his best season, which was in 2019. He had 1,200 yards and 9 touchdowns that season. Obviously, followed that up with a pretty disappointing season. Has never made a Pro Bowl. Like I said, led the AFC in receiving once in 2019. But that's about it, really, for Devonte Parker. It's hard to grade this one because he didn't. Is he worthy of a first-round pick? He's more of a second-round pick, kind of. I don't know. I could see you making. I think he is worthy of the first-round pick, especially at 14. I don't think his production is that bad. He never, ever really, and has still not lived up to the expectations that I had for him. And that's what's definitely going to lower the grade on him. I don't think he would be a top 5 pick of the decade. So I'm going to give this a C+, B-. I don't know. I'm kind of, what do I want to give this? What do I want to give this? Missed a lot of games with injuries. Frustrating player. Never really lived up to his potential. Hopefully he ends up doing that this year. It doesn't really matter. I think I'm going with C+. I think this is C+. I don't think this is a B. I'm going to say this is a C+. On Devonte Parker. And again, he still is capable of having over 1,000 yards. I think we can all agree on that. And his talent, like the stuff that he is, some of the crazy catches and some of the crazy highlight catches that he has had over his career as a Dolphin are absolutely insane. Health, and he just never really lived up to it. And hopefully hopefully he comes back this year and gives us, hopefully, some of that 2019 production. But that remains to be seen. 2016. The 2016 draft. The Dolphins still, if you look at their last 2 drafts, they addressed the offensive side of the ball, which desperately needed to be addressed, and trying to obviously put stuff around Ryan Tannehill. They went Juwan James and Devonte Parker back-to-back, which, that's not terrible. Juwan James is obviously a better player, and I think ended up being a better pick than Devonte Parker, which is crazy to say, but it's true. Then they followed that up in 2016 with another offensive player, and this is the first year that I started doing YouTube. The first draft I ever did on this channel, and I think we were doing the podcast at this point. I think we were, and now we're in 2021, which is crazy. But yeah, this is the first year I started doing the podcast, and the first draft that I started, or that we did on the show. Again, this is 2016. For the third year in a row, the Dolphins went offense and addressed the offensive line, and they drafted Laramie Tunsil with the 13th overall pick, who was projected to go in the top 5, then obviously fell because of the weed issue. So this is an actual steal for the Dolphins in more ways than one that we came to find out at least. He played, how many years did he play with us? He played 4 seasons as a, actually 3 seasons as a Fin, which is crazy. He only played 3 years here. Had some injury issues, was a huge part of the 2016 team. Obviously has made, did he ever make a Pro Bowl with us? I don't think so. I could be wrong about that. Someone's going to have to check that down in the comment section below. But, he did make a first team All Pro from a, magazine. Not the AP first team All Pro, but, he did make a first team All Pro from Sporting News, which who cares about that? He's made 2 Pro Bowls. I don't think, 2019 and 2020. So he never made a Pro Bowl with the Dolphins, but he deserved, he deserved it. Didn't make the All-Rookie team, which is kind of crazy. And I would say this is a top 5 pick of the decade. So I would say Laramie obviously started at guard. His rookie year was a huge part of us going to the playoffs, and a huge part of us being a physical running team, and getting those 200-yard performances that J.J. got. So I would say Laramie Tunsil. Do we add as a player and as an asset to the organization? I'm going to say this is an A. Or an A-. I would say this is an A. And I know that's crazy, but he was a dang good player. We were able to flip him for so much. And I think that accounts for something. So I'm going to give this an A. I think that's the highest grade I've given so far. He was nowhere near the player Mike Pouncey was. That's for sure. He was close, but he wasn't there. So as a player, he would definitely, if I had to just grade him as a player, I would give it a B. But if to take into account everything that he's obviously, everything that we've been able to get for him, and everything that he led to, I'm going to say and he was a big part of the playoff team. I'm going to say it's an A. And again, 3 years in a row where the Dolphins surrounded Ryan Tannehill, and people remember, they gave Tannehill all the opportunity. Not for a long time there, really. Like some of the decisions we made weren't great, and obviously the 2013 draft did not help things at all, especially for a second-year quarterback. Going on to 2017, and this is the downside of Adam Gase's career. This is when stuff starts going crazy and stuff. This was one of the, to be honest with you, this is a bottom 2 pick in this decade, and it's not even close. Jared Audrick actually ranks over Dion Jordan, which is hard to believe, and this player. This is, obviously, we're going into the 2017 season. The Dolphins had the 22nd overall pick. They're coming off a playoff berth, and obviously a kind of a big-time loss. Their defense wasn't great. It was historically the worst defense in the history of the franchise in 2016, which is true. You guys can go look that up. It's kind of crazy. And now I think it actually got beat out by the next year. The Dolphins had kind of a big offseason. They tried to get as many pieces as they could in free agency. I think this was the season where they got Laramie or Lawrence Timmons. Did they get Josh Sitton this year? It was kind of a big offseason. And the Dolphins looked like they were building a pretty good team for years to come, and obviously it all fell apart in 2017. Like, all of it. It all fell apart. And really 2018. I mean, combine both of these years, I mean, they were just terrible. But again, Adam Gase, for all the crap he gave us, had some insanely bright moments, as a fan at least, in some of these games. Some of these games are classic. I mean, the Kiko Alonso pick 6 game, the Miami Miracle, there was a lot of really cool moments as a fan, and some cool games there. But 2018 and 2017 were dark years. I'm rambling. I mean, they were dark. I mean, Tannehill tore his ACL. They were dark. This is the end of Adam Gase as a head coach, who was actually a nominee for Coach of the Year in 2016, believe it or not. So anyway, moving on to 2017. This is the end. This is when stuff started going really bad. This was 2017. The Dolphins had the 22nd overall pick, and they ended up selecting Charles Harris, who I'm ashamed to admit that I somehow talked myself into this. And obviously the Dolphins passed on T.J. Watt here, which is crazy. I'm ashamed to admit this. I was positive on this at the time, and you guys can obviously go back and listen to some of that stuff, which don't do that. I think I've gotten better as the years have gone on. But not the guy I would have picked if I was the GM, that's for sure. Especially in that draft. I don't think any of us would have picked Charles Harris. He was a reach. I defended his lack of run defense in some of my videos, which I regret. And he never amounted to anything. He played 3 years for us. And then obviously we ended up trading him to Atlanta. And I don't know what he's doing now. I don't know if he's still in Atlanta or not. But yeah, Charles Harris was god-awful. And I remember the off-season that we got him where Jason Taylor was like, yeah, this guy can become something special. And I remember that, and I was like, what? Looking back, not at the time, but looking back on it, it's like, wow, how did that happen? But yeah, Charles Harris is an F. This is an F. And I know it's maybe I can't even bump it up from an F, because people might say, well, it was only the 22nd overall pick. This led to absolute chaos. This had a kind of a ripple effect of it just was a sign of things to come, was this pick. And those were really dark seasons, 2018 and 2017. They were really bad. I actually like the 2019 team more than those two teams, by a lot, actually. That team was way more fun to watch. It was kind of like a heartwarming story, that the 2019 team. These two teams were, with Brock Osweiler and Jay Cutler, these 2 years were just really, 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 I'm serious when I say this, the toughest I've had to watch in a long time as a Dolphins fan. And I mean that. They were really, really hard to watch. So yeah, that pick is an F. I don't even know how anybody could make an argument for that being a higher grade than an F. That's as an for some reason I hate this pick more than Dion Jordan. And I think the reason is, like, even if you go back and look at the Deon Jordan team, it's like, man, there were some solid, like, those teams were at 500. And maybe they could have used someone at 3 there in the 2013 draft that could have helped them be better. And they could have. They definitely could have done that. And same thing in 2017. I mean, you come off a 10-win season, and it was never really meant to be, obviously, with the Adam Gase stuff. It never was really meant to be. So I don't know. I just, for some reason, I really hate that pick. Like, even me looking at it right now, I'm like, God, it's just, 2018, 2017 are just disgusting. Let's go to 2018, and I don't even know why. Like, who cares about? Listen, these are 2 lost years, man. I'm so happy Brian Flores is here now. Like, Mike Tannenbaum, literally, there's a reason he's working at ESPN. Let's just put it that way. One of the worst executives in the history of the league. I mean, I don't even have words, bro. I really don't. So this is, again, 2018. We had the 11th pick in the draft. One of my favorite players on this list, if not my favorite. And I know a lot of people, I was really upset when we traded him. Was really, really upset. I actually had his jersey and everything. I loved him as a player. He was a great player. He still is a great player. First team All-Pro, a Pro Bowler. Honestly, if he stayed a Dolphin, this would be by far my favorite pick on this list. Obviously it didn't end up working out. This is the 2018 draft. The Dolphins again had the 11th overall pick. They ended up selecting Minkah Fitzpatrick, safety out of Alabama. I really love Minkah. I loved watching him play. He was just a great player. And he would have been a great fit in the system if things could have worked out. I mean, super versatile, man zone, whatever you want him to do, he can do it. Obviously played some nickel corner in college. He was great. And unfortunately, the Dolphins ended up getting a first-round pick for him, which, to be honest with you, a lot of people were shaking their heads at the time. But again, he is a great player. Like, I mean, he's a first-team All-Pro, and you could think, what they could have done, what they could have done with him and X. He was actually a 2-time first-team All-Pro, which I did not know, in 2019 and 2020. And they could have had that with, and a lot of people say, and I've heard some people say, that, he was a bust in Miami. That's not true. He was he was a great player since he was drafted, in my opinion. And again, he struggled in the Ravens game in 2019, but that's not his fault. And he's a great player. Just a fantastic player. I can't say enough about Minkah. One of my favorite players, and again, if it wasn't for him getting traded, he would be my number 1 player on this list by far. This would be an A+ pick, and it would have been awesome to see him and X play together in Bayern, but we never got to see it. I'm gonna give it an A. I can't give it a lower grade. He was a great player. He went on to win 2, obviously not with us, but 2 first-team All-Pro. That's the caliber of player he was, though. He obviously ended up getting 2 first-team All-Pros, one of the best safeties in the National Football League, if not the best free safety. What else can I say about Minkah? I mean, he got us a first-round pick. He was a great player as a rookie, in my opinion, even though a lot of people are kind of down on him. I saw it in him. I've always loved him, and he's, to me, was always a great player here. So, to be honest with you, again, I think it's an A, and I think that's, other than Laramie, I think that's the highest grade I've given. I love Minkah. I can't say enough about him. 2019. Let's move on to the 2019 season. This is obviously the first year with Brian Flores at the helm. The mass exodus of Adam Gase and all the crap that snorting cocaine and all the stuff he was doing. Waking people up in the middle of the night doing crazy stuff. He lost the locker room. Jarvis Landry. We don't need to go down all the things he did here in Miami that were terrible. But he's gone now. He went to New York. Thank God. I think at the time I was like kind of skeptical on the whole thing. I don't know. I wish I could I would fight myself if I could go back in time, because it's like you just don't know what's coming. Like Chris Richard, what's his name? Chris Richard? Is it something else? The former Cowboys defensive coordinator and Seahawks. I really wanted him, and obviously the Dolphins went another route and got Buffalo, and who's been amazing so far. And it's obviously his first draft, and I was totally wrong about the Buffalo thing. Totally wrong. 2019, Christian Wilkins, 13. We had the 13th overall pick. Defensive tackle out of Clemson. And this is a hard one to grade. He's a very good player, and I think he is above average, for sure. He's not made a Pro Bowl yet. He hasn't done anything too crazy. His numbers aren't crazy if you look at his numbers. I mean, 2 sacks his rookie season, 1.5 the follow-up year. He started 12 games in 2020. He played 14. It's not stellar, but when he does play, he's actually pretty good. And I think he has a bright future ahead of him. And I think he's definitely one of the best players on this list. I would say for Christian Wilkins, I'm going to give him a B- so far. I think he's a B-. I don't think he's a B. But did I give Devonte Parker a B-? No, I think I gave him a C+. Who the heck did I give a B? He's like at the same, I would say he's about the same as Juwan James. So yeah, I'll give him a B-. I think that's a pretty appropriate grade for him. And I think he will get better. And let's get into, we're all the way up to 2020. And now obviously we don't know where these guys are going to go yet. Because they only had their 1 year. But so far the class is pretty good. I mean, Tua, Austin, and Noah. Austin, probably the best player out of the 3 so far. Not probably, he is. Who had a pretty good rookie year. So let's start with Tua. And I don't really want to grade this yet. This is still kind of to be determined. But if I had to grade it so far, he went 6-3 as a starter. Had a pretty good touchdown to interception ratio. Especially if you take away his last game, which was just, I know that it's like, we can't just magically erase things because that's stupid, but it's true. I mean, that game was out of hand. Obviously coming off the hip injury, we know the Tua thing. We know the whole deal. Chain Gailey and all that. This is tough. I'm going to say this is a C+. I don't think it's a B yet. I think it's a C+. He had his ups and downs, but he had... the Arizona game, if we just took that game, this would get an A. It's not even a debate. But obviously it's a whole body of work. And I think with the body of work, I would probably give it... I think I'm going to give it a C+. So there you go. So far. And everything's looking like it's on the uptick. So I'm going to give it a C+ so far. Let's go to Austin Jackson. Who we selected with the 18th overall pick. And obviously this is the bounty of picks we got from Minka and Laramie. And then we obviously ended up going to Austin Jackson. So hyped for this draft, by the way. I'm going to say for Austin, he had some injury things. He was coming off a terrible, he had to transfer bone marrow to his little sister. So he was coming off of that, which is kind of crazy. So yeah, that's, it's not easy to come back from. And I would say for Austin Jackson, I'm going to give this a B-. I think he was obviously has a little bit to be desired in the run game, but in the passing game, he's been great. He's been a lot better than anybody thought he would be. Everybody thought this was a reach. And then, looking at the pick, he's been pretty good. So I'm going to say this is a B-. And then Igbonogony to round out the bounty of picks that we got from Minka and Laramie. With the 30th overall pick, the Dolphins actually ended up trading down with Green Bay to 30 and selected Igbonogony. This is basically a second-round pick. This gets a C-, maybe even lower than that. I don't want to say it's like an F, even though I kind of want to go there, but I don't want to go there. But C-. I'm going to give this a C-. I might give this a lower grade, to be honest with you. I could give this like a D. Yeah, I'm going to give this a D-, actually. This is a D-, D. Yeah, I can't give this a C- because it's only 1 over. Yeah, that's not good. I'm going to give this a D-. This gets a D-. He hasn't. The thing about Igbonogany is I'm concerned about his future. We bring in Justin Coleman. Nick Needham has outplayed him so far in his short career, who, by the way, was an undrafted free agent. And it's like, can he ever play slot? Probably not. Is he an outside corner? Not really. At least what he's shown us this far. thus far. And he's not going to beat out Justin Coleman. He's not beating out X. He's not beating out Byron. So the best he can do is be the fourth guy in the rotation, which is kind of crazy. And to be honest with you, his best, and even that side of the ball is going to be kind of highly contested because he's not the player that Bobby McCain is right now to be a free safety because he's a second-year player who didn't even play safety his rookie year. Even though I think he has the measurables and the ability to do that. And I think maybe one day he can be a safety. So it's going to be really hard for him to even get on the field right now. This could end up being an F, unfortunately. Or he could be Jared Audrick. I don't really know. But it's going to be hard for him to get on the field. It really is. And when he got on the field last year, it wasn't great. So, I think this is a D-. I'm interested to see where his career goes. I think out of everyone on this, Tua, Austin, and Christian, out of all the Brian Flores first-round picks, he's going to have the hardest road. Brandon Jones looked amazing last year. It's going to be hard for him to do to really get on the field and make a difference. So I'm going to give that a D-. So I think we did it, ladies and gentlemen. We graded everybody from 2010 to 2020, an entire decade's worth of players. It was really fun. I would love to know what you guys. You could grade it down in the comment section below. I would love to read that. To do a top 5 of the decade, the top 5 players we drafted the decade to end the video, I would say Minka, Laramie, Jawan, Mike, and there's one more. Let me do that again. Minka, Jawan, Mike, and Laramie. Who is 5? That's tough. Sorry, guys. I'm in deep thought right now. I kind of want to put Austin Jackson there because I do think he's a better player than Christian Wilkins, which I think a lot of people would disagree with that, but maybe not a better all-around player. Man, this is tough. Who would be 5? Tannehill's not there. Devonte I could put there, but I think I'm gonna have to go Christian. I wanted to put Austin Jackson there, but I don't think he's done enough yet to get over Christian Wilkins. So again, my top 5, I would go Minka, Laramie, Jawan, Mike Pouncey, and Christian Wilkins would be the 5 best picks of the decade, in my opinion. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. It's a special edition. We're still going to do the normal show, but I thought this would be fun to do. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please put your lists down in the comment section below. I would love to read them, and I definitely will respond to them. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and I'll see you guys in the next one.